And then recording in progress. If you guys would like to hit the got it in the center of your screen. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this meeting that we are holding between the BC Grain Producers and Argo Road Maintenance. My name is Jennifer Critcher. I am currently the Vice President of the BC Grain Producers, and my family farm is located in the Tower Lake area of the South Peace. Thank you for joining us at this stakeholder meeting. Although we would much rather like to have it in person, this is the world that we live in. So we are recording this meeting so that we can build content for our new YouTube channel that the BC Grain Producers has to accommodate people who were maybe unable to make it to the meeting and would like to see the content at a later date. The grain producers have been longtime advocates of the grains and oilseed sector. And as we all know, road issues are something that affects us It affects us producers in the Northeast. Road conditions are critical to infrastructure to our operations. We rely on the roads in the spring to get our crop inputs, such as fertilizer and seed, to our fields. The safe transportation of our large equipment, such as seed drills and combines, and in the fall, getting our product off the fields, and throughout the year, getting our product to market. We rely on larger trucks as well as the rail, but roads are crucial infrastructure to our business operations. The BC Grain Producers Association would like to take this opportunity to work with the road contractors in the Northeast to increase communications, as well as pre-planning and identify issues that will impact our sector, but we also to work with Argo to find solutions to be proactive rather than reactive. We understand that road issues can be controversial, but rather than airing the past grievances, we would like to proceed ahead and make positive communication amongst our grain producers as well as our road maintenance contractors. That being said, I would like to welcome Shelley with Argo Road Maintenance. She has a presentation for us. And then after, we will open it up to any questions that anybody else has. Thank you. Welcome, Shelley.
Thank you. I also have with me Norm Atkinson, who is the operations manager, and I also have Andrew Thola, who is the superintendent for this area.
Perfect.
So,
Actually, I guess we could do a short
draw information from.
Perfect. I guess we could do a short introduction of the people that are on the call. Kristen, would you like to go first, and then we'll have Barry, just so that Shelley knows who she's talking to.
Hi, I'm Kristen Brody. I work with BC Grain Producers. I'm trying to set up our research, and I pretty much born and raised in Fort St. John, so been around the North Peace and South Peace roads my whole life.
Barry?
Barry Folsby. I used to farm in Corolla. I still live there. I retired a couple years ago, but I've been involved with the roads through the ministry and contractors for, oh, I'd say at least 20 years. So I do have a little bit of history of what's been going on, and I'm still want to see things. So I kept my name on the list for directors for this meeting. So.
Thank you, Barry. So I guess take it away, Shelley.
All right. Well, I have a little bit of a presentation. I just kind of quickly threw it together. Just to cover some of these topics, we can go back and ask questions, because I'm sure you have questions on these topics. Just as soon as I find it. Oh.
I see something.
Can you see that?
I see a truck with lights on, and it's at night. That's about all.
Yeah. Can you see the road maintenance South Peace?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. We are off and running then. For this first slide is the one of the topics that we wanted to talk about was road classification. So this first slide, I quickly threw this graph together to show you the number of summer class roads we have. So the road classes. So class 1, which we have none of, is, well, we don't have any in this area, but they're more like freeways. So for class 2 roads, they are like in town. So in Dawson, in Chetwynd, in the village of Poos. Class 3 roads are all our main highways. So that's Highway 2, Highway 97, Highway 97 North, Highway 97 South. 49 is a 3. So class 3, that is the major highways, but lesser class. So like Highway 49, Highway 3, Rolla Road, I think. And then there's class 4s, which are like major secondaries. So that would be like the Braden, maybe the Simple Mason. Class 5 would be the major paved secondaries like 210, 212, Old Hart, oh yeah, Sweetwater, those kinds of roads. The class 6 are basically gravel roads that are traveled on by a school bus. Class 7 are gravel roads that aren't traveled by a school bus. And class 8, of course, is the unmaintained roads. These are all based on traffic volumes. So if one was to want to change a classification, you would have to go to the ministry, and they would do like a count to do any sort of classification change. So similar to the summer class, we have winter class roads. Class A being all of our major highways are class A. So other than 49. So Highway 2, 97 North, 97 South are all class A highways. Class B would be the like 29 and the 29s to Hudson Hope, and the other way south to Tumbler, as well as 49 is a class B. Rolla, yeah, the Rolla Road 3 is a class, is it a class B? Hmm. Class C would be, again, the school bus routes would be the class C. Class D, anything that isn't the school bus route. Class E is a maintained road, but generally it has a very minimal classification or work. And then class F is no maintenance.
So Shelley, what's those numbers mean? Like the 197.33 for class
That's
F?
the number of roads in that class. So
Okay.
For example, class A in Dawson Creek, there are 64 kilometers of class A road.
Okay.
There's
Okay.
50 in mile 22, there's 42, etc. Right?
And then is there a total? There's no total for the whole piece.
I think I kind of cut the total off, but it's 3,300 and something
Okay, no, I just want to know.
kilometers. But as you can see, one thing I wanted to kind of show with this graph is this blue is the number of 8F roads.
Yeah.
So there's quite a few in Dawson, a little less in mile 22, a few in Progress, a few in Chetwynd, of course, none in the Pine Pass, and there's a little bit in Tumbler. So that was the purpose. And the other one I wanted to point out is the Class C. We have 90%, well, I wouldn't say 90, but a lot of our contract is all secondary roads. We have a lot of secondary roads. Another item on the agenda was communication. And I did want to point out that this 1-800 number is by far the best way to contact us, as it is monitored 24/7. From Monday to Friday, the administration office here in Dawson answers that phone, but evenings and weekends, it goes to our answering service, and they radio the foreman directly on the road. So it gets directly to the foreman on weekends. Anytime a phone call is made, we do a form called a public communications report, and it's sent to the foreman as soon as it comes through, so that everybody can see it quickly and act on it depending on priority. This is just an example of our PCR report. And all of the data is logged and then analyzed by activity, by area, by road, so that we can see if a trend is happening in a certain area or on a certain road, or, you know, those kinds of things. So if I'm just going back to the 1-800 number, if you want to get a hold of us, write this number down. We do have an office number as well, and you're free to call that, but this one will get you there as well. So if you wanted to say, talk to Norm or myself, this 1-800 number will get you there too. It's just, we'll have to go through the desk, the front desk. So another really good way to get a hold of us is through our social media. Facebook is by far the #1 way people communicate. Well, other than phone calls, I shouldn't say the #1. The #2 way that people contact us is through Facebook. One thing, we like to put out a lot of information out in Facebook to hopefully give the information before we get the phone call. So we really try to be proactive about that. So if you don't follow us, I highly recommend that you do, because you will get a lot of information prior to a storm or prior to work being done, or if there's construction in a certain area or a road closure. All of that stuff goes onto Facebook right away. Twitter is another social media that we do. I don't know much about Twitter, but we do post on it. And then Instagram. I am a fan of Instagram, but it is more visual. It's lots of pictures, but we do post like stories. If there's a storm, we'll post a story that there's a storm today, or we expect a storm to come. So the social media of your choice, we have something on it. Here's a map of our area. I'm sure everybody's kind of familiar, but we cover a lot of territory. It's one of the biggest contract areas in BC. We go all the way to Mackenzie Junction in the Pine Pass, all the way through Chetwynd, through Ground Birch, to Dawson, and then up north all the way to the Taylor Bridge, but not the bridge. And of course, all the way down Highway 2 to the Alberta border. And I know one of the hot topics is we're talking about the 8F road work. This is another map that I discovered here and I thought is interesting. All of the blue marks are 8F roads. So that's kind of interesting to see there's how much more 8F there is in like the Dawson Creek, Rolla area compared to like Chetwynd. But there are 8F roads in just about all areas except for the Pine Pass. So this is, can I move this? So this is a request that we received last year, the year, our first year. So this is, we received this request from the grain producers of particular roads that needed grading. And we posted it on this map here so that we can, and we got all of that grading done. I think we did some, we did it all last year too, right? So these are the ones that we're kind of focusing on, but the idea is, by all means, this is hopefully where we can get your requests, what needs to be done. Like you saw, there is a lot of 8F roads. And we want to prioritize the ones that need work first and the ones that need and when they need to be done so that we can, you know, tackle it in a more efficient manner that is more helpful to you than us just kind of guessing which ones need to be done. And questions. So that is all I have for a presentation. So gathering information of what 8F roads need work and what you would like to see done would be excellent, because we are currently right now in our planning stages. So we would like to get that list and work away on it. We do have funding left in the 8F funding. Luckily, the ministry has put in money into the contract, which is something that is new in this contract, so that we actually have funding to work on 8F roads, which is new to this contract. So we do have funding left. I think we're maybe halfway through it for this year. Our year unfortunately ends in the middle of August. So we do definitely have funding available for this summer. And that is all I have. Questions?
I got a whole bunch.
Of course.
Okay, let's start off with ADF roads. I'd like to toot our own horn because there's grain producers that actually got that funding for the ADF. Speaking with the ministry. So what is the amount and how much is left? And
there is 250,000 per contract year.
yeah, okay, that's the number. I was just making sure I was right.
Yeah.
And have you spent any of it?
We're about halfway through. Like I said, our contract ends in the middle of the summer, which is kind of weird, but so we spent half of it already last summer, and then we'll do the rest this summer.
Okay. Yeah, because this is a first, that map, could you put that map up again or maybe send it to us on our email so we could see what, I guess we'll go through that as grain producers, we'll go through it again and prioritize what
Is this the one you were talking about?
yeah, that's the one I was talking about. So most of those are the ones I've asked for over the years. So that's good. One concern I had, and I'll put this right out right now, is the last year I farmed, it was 2 years ago, I phoned Argo, and because we had crop out, and there's crop out throughout the piece, I wanted some roads, one of those 8F roads created, and because it was just chewed up from the hunters and all that from the fall before. And I asked them, could you get that graded? And they said, no, it's not a priority. It's the last of our, it's on the lowest part of our priority. We have to get the other ones graded first.
Right.
And
well, it depends on the situation.
Okay. But
that's why we like to have an idea ahead of time.
Yeah.
So that we can kind of fit it in our schedule when we're in an area. Like you can imagine when we get bad weather, like heavy rainfall, like especially in the spring, you can imagine all the roads need to be done at once.
I understand that, but there's two problems with that. These are 8F roads, they're dirt roads. You can't get to them till they're dry to see them.
Right.
I didn't know what the condition was in, and it was later in the season. When I asked this, and that's the problem with the 8F system. We need to get access to those roads first thing in the spring. Right. So is there any way we can get those prioritized so they can at least get a blade down the middle of them so you can actually use them in the spring? Because there's so much washing from
the flood and runoff and stuff.
Yeah, because they're not open. Like we used to, some of these roads years ago, we actually had a map like this. We prioritized some that they would actually open up for spring runoff so the water could get away. And I don't know if that's in the budget too, but that helps a lot. So these roads don't erode so bad. So come May, when we want to get a loaded truck down there, that we can actually get down there.
A lot earlier in the spring because
we have to get down there in May. And like I said, they said that was a low priority, and we'll get to it when we got everything else done. Well, that's not good enough for the agriculture industry because we have to use those roads.
Right. Yeah. Winter road maintenance isn't in the contract.
It is not.
No, it's not. But some of this budget, we have to talk to the ministry. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not doable, but
could this be considered preventative maintenance? Like, yes, it's removing of snow, but it's preventing there being damage to these roads in the spring melt. So could there be a case pled for that perspective?
Yeah, there could. I mean, I can't speak for the ministry, but there's no reason we couldn't.
Well, who decides where this $250,000 is spent? Is it Argo or is it the ministry?
Sorry?
Who decides where the 8F budget is spent? Is it Argo or the ministry tells you guys which ones to do? Like who makes
the ministry doesn't tell us, but we are confined to the contract, right? Which is grading like summer work.
Oh, so it's classified, but opening that road, that's classified as it's not in the contract for that 250,000.
Not for winter. Yeah, it's not in the contract. It's classified as 8, which is summer, and it's called the Class 8 road works or something along those lines, which means it's summer work, right?
Mm-hmm.
That being said, Barry, it's Norm here. I'm off screen, but That being said, I mean, that could be a quick conversation between myself and the ministry. And if they're good with us spending that, some of those funds for opening those roads, then I don't see an issue with it. We would just have to get confirmation that they're okay with it.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be a huge budget. How much would it cost to open up, 20 miles of 8F roads with a grader? We're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars.
No, yeah, it would just depend on how much snow is in there and how long. I
Yeah.
mean, we would just kind of charge that out as the hourly rate with the grader.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just depends on how much snow is in there and how long it takes the grader to actually do it. But if you're talking 20, 30 kilometers of roadway and there's 3 feet of snow, or depending on the drifts and whatnot, it could really vary, but I can't see it being a huge amount.
Yeah, okay.
And it
Good.
wouldn't be a ton of roads, it'd be the ones you need the most, right?
Mhm.
And if
Well,
we
yeah,
look
the
at
ones-
that list, we
that's
can
right.
try to,
There's some of these are thoroughfares and they join other roads and people use them. Example is the Sweetwater Road. You can't move. Well, you can, but you have to block the road off to move these new drills and stuff down that road. So if we could take a side road down it that didn't block the road, we would, but when you can't travel it, you just go right down the middle of the road of the highway.
Mhm. So I would say, if your members kind of prioritize a list as far, I mean, so we had the initial list that was given to us through the ministry that came from the grain producers for summer maintenance. And if you wanted to put together a bit of a second list for what you think would be, or what the members feel would be the best priority for opening up pre-summer and get the snow off so the road dries out faster. And then we can kind of work off a 2 lists there, one priority list for winter, one for summer.
Okay. So that's good. So another concern I had, I've heard rumors and I don't know, I've never seen the budgets, but by looking at that map you had earlier, like I would say 80 or 90% of all the 8F roads are in the Rolla area.
Mhm.
I'm hoping that 80 or 90% of the budget gets spent there. Is that assuming, or is that something that we can
I would
agree on?
say probably, yeah, the majority of it is in the Dawson area for sure.
Yes. So as
Yeah.
long as the majority of that money is spent there,
Well, that's where the most of the roads are, so yeah, it's
okay.
easy enough to say that would happen for sure.
What
I
about in cases of major flooding events? You had once said that possibly that money had been spent in the Pine Pass or in Tumbler to get some of those roads up to. If the money was earmarked for the 8F roads for the Rolla area, isn't that where the money should be staying?
Well, so I know there was some discussion between some discussion that happened earlier on that the money was specifically for the Rolla area. Looking at the contract, the way the ministry laid it out, it was for any 8F in the entire service area of 21. So it wasn't specifically just for maybe the intent was for most of it to be in Rolla, but the way the contract was written, the way the ministry laid it out, it was for anywhere in the service area.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about there, Jen, if there was a major washout or something in Chetwynd on an 8F road that was going to eat up a bunch of that money, the potential is, I'm not going to lie to you, the potential is there that the money would go to what's the most severe damage there. But in that situation as well, I mean, we would try to get the ministry to find some extra money or something to help those cost implications there.
Okay, thank you.
That makes sense, but you still have to prioritize the use of the road too, right? As an example, I think the ministry has abandoned the Henderson Road because that bridge is out. And I don't see is there any money to fix that? And that was a washout. And it's just been abandoned for 2 years.
Yeah. You know what? I don't I don't really have an update for you on that one, Barry. I know the ministry had initially said that at that time, they weren't gonna spend any money on it.
Yeah.
But then I also heard conflicting, and nothing is concrete, but I also heard that they were talking about spending some money on it. So I'm really not 100% sure where that one is sitting right now.
Okay, we'll follow that up with the ministry.
You betcha. No,
So-
and we can talk to them too and see what, see if they do have plans or what.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you could do that and just follow up with us on that as well. So we'll just make sure that we're both not double talking to the ministry for.
You betcha.
Yeah, we can start at the local district and find out what they know.
Okay. So on getting back to the grading, so on the grading of these roads, I mean, these are the major ones that we put forward. I drove down most of those last summer, and the grader had been down there, but I was kind of hoping for a little more work, like
Mhm.
pulling of the shoulders and reshaping the road. They did make a pass down the middle so you could get down there about 30 an hour. But if you've ever been around a harvest in the fall around farmers, it's go. And you know, 30 an hour going back to the combine to get grain just doesn't really fly too well. Is there any way we can get a little more grader time and the roads actually pulled up and shaped?
Yeah, I think so. I know one of the problems was with, when we started going through those roads last, summer there, was that they were severely overgrown. It was hard to reshape the road with all the vegetation that was there. Trying to kind of hack away at some of that vegetation, but not bury it in the road. I'm hoping, I'm optimistic that this year, it should be able to improve every year as long as we're hitting it at the appropriate times.
Yeah, like I said, if you could get those on those early enough, so we could get down them, and even just a top grade and you can slow the grass down just on the edge of the road.
Mhm.
And then the second time around, you know, later on in June or whatever, to reshape, and you'd have a lot less to work with for sure. Either that or a tractor and a disc. I understand. I've seen those windrows. They're 4 feet tall sometimes.
Yeah.
Is there any way to get like actual like vegetation control done, like spraying of the roads prior to?
Spring's a dirty word.
Yeah, it is.
Well, it's effective. That's what my previous job was doing vegetation management in oil and gas. But like, is there any uptake
Well,
of that or absolutely not?
there's no spraying in the contract. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
We have brushing and we have, I think
Mowing.
and mowing, but yeah, not spraying.
Yeah, I know we tried with the ministry. They just don't want to go there. BC Hydro can spray trees in there right away. And if it happens to be down the ditch of a government road, that's fine. But if highways want to do any spraying, they look at you like you're asking them to fly to the moon.
It would just be so effective, like as we know in the ag sector, when you control your weeds, it's a huge benefit to you, and this could be a huge benefit to you guys as well. But if it's a no-go issue, I guess we can't.
It's tough. The best control is farmers with high clearance sprayers and their boom hang out over the road. Did I say that out loud?
Yeah, if we happen to show up one day and the weeds were all dead because somebody took it upon themselves to spray it, there's not a whole lot we could do about that.
We could say thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but the other option's a tractor and a small disc too. But I know what I've seen it, like I've been on those roads for 30 years, and I've seen the deterioration of them, and it's just because of the timing of it. And as the roads get worse, they get used less, only spring and fall, and that's not good, but it's the way it is. But we still need access to our fields.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, in the last contract, there was very little work done on the 8F, so they've been neglected for quite a while.
Well, and Barry, I think you got a very good point about getting the snow off early. I mean, that was one of the things that we struggled with last year, is because we were waiting for it to melt on its own, and then by the time it melts,
And then
and
it's soft.
it is soft, and then by the time it actually hardens up where the grader can actually do something with it,
It's later.
It's later in the season, and plus, I mean, technically we are, and I know the 8Fs are definitely a priority for the grain producers, and they need to be treated as such. But again, if we've got a whole multitude of our road system that is needed to be graded at the same time, technically we are supposed to go by the classification, and therefore the Cs and the Ds and whatever are supposed to come first.
Yeah.
But I really think that if we do get the snow off them ahead of time and they dry out faster, that gives us a head start. So I'll definitely talk to the ministry and see if they have any issue with us using some of that funding for opening up, getting the snow off there early.
Yeah, okay, good. And we'll follow up with the ministry too, because I understand what you're saying. And somebody living on a road and complaining that it's rough has more priority. Well, they think they do, but we still have to get to our fields, and it's a priority to us.
Yeah.
And it should be a priority to the ministry, and we should get the Minister of Agriculture involved in it too. Maybe they can change the priority for us. So we'll follow up with them.
Yeah. Well, and I don't disagree with you. To simplify it, like for us, it's the confinements of the contract is where we have a tough time. It's the contractual obligations. But you're right. I mean, it is important for the grain producers because that's your guys' livelihood.
It is. Okay. No, we'll do that. So if we got, Jennifer, we have a copy of this map, so we can go over it and prioritize which ones we want to open up for the winter or for the spring. And we can get it to them, because that's going to happen here, within the next month.
I think for all aspects, we should just continue on with the same list, because I mean, you guys sat down and went over this list.
Yeah, sure.
Pardon?
It's not a lot. I mean, looking
Yeah, I
at
think-
here, there can't be 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. There's not 20 miles.
Mhm.
Well, from what
Yeah.
I'm seeing.
So this list would be a good list. This is the list. I just want to make sure that we're not missing anything.
Yeah, and we'll put it out to our membership when we've sent emails out to the membership. So at this time, we haven't got any feedback. So this will be the list that we'll work on for now. And then we'll just do some more email and website blitzes to try and get some feedback prior to spring. I think maybe we'll put a cutoff date of when feedback is required. So like say the mid-April, would that be sufficient enough?
Is that too late to get in? We got to get in while they're frozen.
Yeah, I would say you'd want it by the 1st of April, the latest.
Yeah, we need to be in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, you want to be. I always think our water starts to run around the 15th of March, but that's been delayed in the last few years. But definitely the 1st of April, because the problem with those roads is the water runs right down the middle of them, and what grade we had before, just every year it takes another few inches off of it.
Mhm.
Okay.
So the other,
What would we call that? Sorry.
Well, why don't we just go with this list right now, Jennifer, and tell them, if Norm, if you can talk to government, to whoever you have to talk to, and see if they'll okay that snow plowing or opening up. We can call it spring runoff. It's not winter anymore. We'll call it spring.
yeah.
Well, it's
So
preventative.
yeah, we already had spring runoff twice already this year.
Yes.
Couple times.
One suggestion I would have, when you're getting the input from the members of grain producers and whatnot, as to, I'm just thinking, the bigger the list gets, the more within the 8F it's going to need to be prioritized. If there's some of these roads that, I mean, every farmer, I mean, I'm imagining anyways, that every farmer is going to have an 8F in mind that they would like to see opened up. Where it might be, where you guys might amongst yourselves might need to prioritize it a little bit, is if there's some that are used by multiple farmers. And just because, as the list grows, it's going to be harder for us to get to everything in a timely fashion. So
I agree, but this isn't very many miles right here.
no.
And what my goal would be is all the other farmers that have 8F roads see these as in such great shape that they're envious and want to do something.
Yeah,
So let's start with these and see if we can make them look like a road.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I'll have that conversation with the ministry pretty quick here.
We have a meeting with them on Thursday, so.
Yeah.
Perfect.
any
Yeah,
other-
I don't think I have any other ones. My concern was ADAP, and we've dealt with that good, so.
Mhm. Okay.
So I had a question emailed in from a producer. He's actually a North Peace producer, but hauls grain into Dawson. So his was, what can be done to better maintain the South Taylor Hill? And he also sent a little bit of context with it, that with the 10% grade on a corner, loaded trucks with chains are still spinning out. Having a tow tractor on a federal provincial highway is unacceptable, is what he says.
Well, so that one's kind of that's a tough one for us as a contractor, because it was the ministry that built that road the way it is. And it was the ministry that they actually put it in our contract that we had to have a tow vehicle there. Because of the way the road was built. That's a tough one for us to answer. Because
I have to say that we have a truck there 24/7 on, how is it, 7 kilometers of road that sands, salts, plows 24/7. Like, it never leaves that 7 kilometers. So one vehicle is dedicated to the hill alone. And then we also have the tow tractor that, because we can't stop them from blowing a shift or not putting up chains or whatever the situation is, and they spin out, we have now an option to get them to the top of the hill, and the hill's not completely shut down. So I'm not sure what more could be done, really.
that was a local area spec that was put in the contract for this latest round when we bid on it. And yeah, it was basically that spec. Well, to simplify it, that spec basically reads that we have to have a truck on the hill 24/7 at all times, a plow truck, sand truck. So that truck basically stays down at the bottom there at Johnson Pit. We have a little shack there, and they work out of there. So that truck is always on that Taylor Hill. And then the other part of the spec was the tow tractor, and that was well, it didn't have to be a tow tractor, it had to be a tow vehicle, but the tractor has actually worked out
Works very well.
really well. So until the ministry completely redesigns that piece of highway and maybe hopefully puts in a new bridge, we're kind of stuck with the way it is. There's not a whole lot else can be done without totally redesigning it.
And for the most part, it's actually gone reasonably well. We've only had a few incidents, and we've been able to keep them short. We've had a couple of accidents, which were not due to road conditions, and that really messed things up, and things were plugged up for quite a while. I think we've had 2 this year, but that was not road conditions. So, I mean, there's not much we can do there. Those were the only real delays, like, for any length of time.
I had a meeting with the village, I guess it's a village of Taylor there, back probably about a month ago, something like that. And was just discussing with them how they feel about the Taylor Hill and that section of highway and whatnot. And they did say, because this was before my time here, back with the CRS days, they had commented that there was quite a number of times every winter where traffic was backed up into Taylor there, due to trucks being spun out or whatever. And the report back, I mean, there's always a little bit of room for improvement with anything, but they did say that it had only been backed up into Taylor once this year, and otherwise it had not gone across the bridge at all as far as the traffic backup goes or whatever. So in my mind and in theirs or whatever, they definitely saw an improvement. So,
Until the minister, there is a plan in place to change the hill, to reconstruct in 3 phases. The first phase is done. There is a second phase. When it gets executed, I don't know, but there is a plan, but I don't know when they're gonna actually start the second phase.
Okay, just as a side, is there a cost associated with the tow tractor for the trucking companies if they do need to tow up the hill?
yeah, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they were. Right off the top of my head, I can't remember exactly what it was. It was a lightened cost. It was definitely not they're not paying full rate. Most of the burden is carried by us, but there was, I don't know if it was $100 or what it was. There was some, I want to say maybe 30% was charged to the truck and 70% to us if I had to split it.
Okay, so that tow tractor, having it there as a part of your guys' contract, but the additional fee for the truckers is just to subsidize it? I don't know. Like if it's part of your contract, why is there being a charge to truckers?
Well, it was the before, so that tow tractor was something that it's not actually ours, it's a subcontractor of ours. The way it was set up was that in the contract there, they put they basically just said, you have to have a tow vehicle available. It didn't say anything about who's getting charged for what or whatever. Like there was the cost implications weren't built in the contract. It just said that we had to have a truck or a unit available to tow trucks up the hill so that the highway would be cleared as quickly as possible.
Okay.
And so
I was just wondering if the cost was put in to discourage people from not putting on chains or doing things like that.
Well, and then when we had because we did contract it out to a tow truck the first year,
yeah,
and he charged them
I think it was like $400
like
tow or
crazy
something like
amounts.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Like basically we paid him a
Okay.
standby fee to have him there during a snowstorm, and then he charged the trucks every time he towed somebody.
Okay.
So the way
My
we have it
next
set up now
question-
is considerably cheaper for the traveling for the truckers.
Okay.
But it's still, there is some cost implications. And you know what? Yeah, if we have had a lot of trouble with guys not chaining up. You know, and off the books, I know for a fact that there has been times where that tow tractor has pulled guys up that were wearing chains and still got spun out, and they pulled them up and they went on their merry way, and there was no money transacted there.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be. There shouldn't be if they have chains on.
Yeah.
Okay, we had that question. Another question that we've got calls on is the Clayhurst Hill.
Mhm.
A substantial amount of grain comes through that hill, and we're just wondering about the graveling of the Clayhurst, or if there's potential plans for the future to upgrade the Clayhurst.
So it was gravelled last summer. That hill does take a beating, and chances are it's going to need to be gravelled. I don't know about every year, but every second year or every third year, it's gonna need gravel on a regular basis. But it was gravelled just last year.
Okay.
We did some on it, as well as and I forget his name. He had the pit. He sold it to the Hutterites now. The Doe River Colony, I believe, has bought the pit.
Yeah.
I forget what it was called.
Big Valley gravel.
Big Valley.
Yes, Big
Yeah.
Valley. He had done some graveling on it as well for us, with some bigger aggregate, I believe, and then we did some ourselves as well last year. But it is that hill, the amount of trucks and whatnot, that hill does take a beating, and it's going to need stuff fairly regularly.
Well, there's a ministry gravel pit there. Are you not allowed to use that? That's really handy.
Yeah, no, there is one, yeah, Moose Mouth, I believe it's called, right across there. Yeah, and that's where we took some gravel out of it last year. When we did the graveling. So I think Big Valley had done it, they did it first. Because we were tied up. So they put out some, I'm not sure how much of a lift they put on, but they did haul some bigger, I think some 1 inch or something like that there. And then later on in the summer, we had done some more.
Okay, that's a question that brought up another question I had about the graveling program. It would be nice if we had some suggestions on that program. When is that decided and who decides it? Is it ministry and Argo sit together and decide the graveling program for the next year? Is that how it works, or is it the ministry tells you and you just do what you're told?
No, so we build our own gravel program based upon our own road inspections.
Okay.
The ministry also has a graveling program. And generally, you know, we will have this discussion with them as to, okay, well, we're going to work over here. We're going to do this road, this road, this road. And then they'll just, okay, well, if you're working there, we'll work over here. Just so we're not doubling up or anything like that. But generally, as far as the gravel program goes, our gravel program, we build it. And that being said, with our quantified plan, we do have to get, with each quantified plan that we submit to the ministry, we need to get their approval. So they could potentially request changes to it, but for the most part, we build our gravel program.
Hey, you know, I don't want to tell you how to do it, but it would be nice if we could see the program, maybe just have some suggestions. Is that possible?
Well, if you have suggestions, we're always open for that. By all means, give us.
No, but if we see
know
your
what
program,
you would like to see gravel for sure.
yeah, but if we see your program and see where you're going to put the gravel, and we'll ask the ministry this too, I think. It would be nice just to maybe say, well, this one is worse, or yeah, that's a good idea, or, you know, things like that. Is that possible to do for another year? I assume it's already planned by now.
No, it's not planned.
Oh, it's
but-
not?
No,
Oh, okay.
I mean, we are in the planning stages. We've actually just recently gone through a bunch of meetings with all of the gravel roads, listed
Yep.
gravel roads, and we've like, I guess you could say, made our first cut.
Okay,
And
Well-
so it's still in process. And we also have to see what the ministry is doing as well, so we're not doubling up.
well, I don't want to create a third layer here, but it would be nice to, if it's possible, to see it, and we thought, well, that's great, that's perfect, or maybe this road instead of this road, that would be nice to have that option too.
Yeah, well, and like I say, it would be awesome if you could give us some suggestions of roads as well, like areas even suggested of roads, so that we can do that in the planning process.
Okay, so when would you need that by?
As
Soon?
soon as possible.
Yeah, there was a number, and I don't have the list off the top of my head here. There was some up in Doe River that we were looking at.
Yeah.
Because we do have a stockpile of gravel that we built over in that Moose Mouth pit across the river.
Mhm.
So there was some in Doe River we were looking at. I just don't have that list in front of me right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
But when we do have it developed, I mean, we can share it, but once it's developed, I don't know how much movement.
it's yes, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just would
so-
hate to give it to you and say, oh, I'd like this one. Well, you know,
Too late.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, better to have your suggestions beforehand, or then we could take your suggestions into consideration for the following year, for the next year.
Yeah, okay. So we should maybe have a date for that, so we know when to get them in, if we're gonna do it. Like, when would you need that?
We do our planning generally in February for summer,
Mhm.
but I mean, it can come anytime, really. I mean, it doesn't, if you send it in, it'll be for the next year, or maybe we've already done it, or we have it on the plan. Once we have the list, we can incorporate it every year.
I mean, generally speaking, I would say we wouldn't actually start graveling roads until probably June would be the earliest we would physically start graveling them. So I
The
mean,
bands have to be off, don't they?
if you had suggestions to us by the end of March, then we could possibly fit stuff in,
Okay,
but I can't guarantee that.
No, and that's understandable, but I mean, if we had an opportunity to kind of to give suggestions, I think that's
Oh, absolutely.
And then, I mean, and then like moving forward in the years to come, I mean, next year, if we have another meeting like this in February, and if you guys had a list at that point, that would be perfect.
Sounds good. But for the snow or opening up these 8F roads, you want a list like by March 15th, would like sooner rather than later, right? I'm just trying to make notes of what lists are for when.
I just-
You betcha.
Jennifer, I was just thinking we're gonna go with this map they have right now, because like there's not a lot of roads on it. I mean, a lot of miles.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
just,
that sounds good.
yeah,
But for next year's
For-
or whatever.
yeah, you know what, I would say the same
Yeah.
thing for next year. If
We want to add to it.
we'll work off of this map for this year, but if there's any changes that you would like to see for next year, then if we're talking mid-February, that gives us lots of time to plan it out.
Oh, it'd be kind of nice to know what the cost was too. And then we can
Mhm.
decide if that's where we want to spend that money at. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like if
Yeah.
it costs $10,000, well, that's nothing, but if it costs $100,000, yeah, let's not do that again.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, just for opening up the roads, I mean, it would be,
Yeah, it's not, well, what's a grader an hour? How much are you?
well, I'd have to check the ministry blue book there, but I want to say for the grader, depending on the size and the attachments, and it all depends too, because the rate changes if you're using a wing or if you're using a dozer blade on the front, if it's an all-wheel drive, all those things change. Or makes the price fluctuate a bit, but a round ballpark figure, 200, 210 an hour, 220 an
Yeah.
hour, around there.
Okay. So, 2 or 3 days would do a lot of opening up.
Well, oh yeah, I think, if we, yeah, depending on the amount of snow, if we threw a grader at it, I think we could get through that map probably, as long as there's not like massive drifts
No,
across
no.
some of them.
Yeah.
I think well within a week, you can get
Yeah.
it done.
I would think so.
Barring any other storms and such.
Yeah, of course, yeah, weather dependent.
My only worry is if we open them too early and we get that mid-March snowstorm and it drifts them all shut, now you guys got more snow. And then we'd have to go redo them again.
Well, that is an issue, but if we're gonna worry about what if, we will do nothing to either, right?
Well, we can
Push it
also
as-
look at this like as like
Yeah.
a pilot program to see how it works. And as Barry said earlier, using these roads, identifying them and then utilizing them as kind of a way for people to compare, oh, this was on the program, so it got priority. So it's opportunity.
It might be a little bit of trial and error for a bit.
Well, I know you want to leave it as long as you can, but you can't leave it too long, because once the water starts running, then the graders are all putting out fires all over the place too, right?
Exactly.
No, absolutely. That's the thing. Once the weather changes, temperatures change and whatnot, then all of a sudden the priorities change and they can change pretty quick. So, yeah, we'll definitely, that'll be a discussion tomorrow when we have our meeting with the ministry.
Sure, great.
Any other questions?
I don't have any other. Barry, do you have any other?
No, I'm good. We have to follow up with some things with the ministry, but no, this has been beneficial, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And we'd like to continue these meetings just to have that communication between you guys and the grain producers. So with that, I guess we'll close off the meeting, unless Shelley, is there anything else that you think would be beneficial for us as grain producers to do as far as increasing communication or helping to build the relationship with you guys?
I think communication is definitely the best, and running everything through the producers would be optimal. I mean, for this planning sort of stuff, but any emergency stuff or, hit the panic button stuff on that 1-800 number.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, thank you very. Sorry. Thank you, everybody, for your time today. And yeah, we will put this recording on our website for anybody else to view, and then they can direct any communication through the grain producers, and then we'll follow up with Argo on that.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.